Apple was dying. Sales were crashing. Employees were jumping ship. The company that had once revolutionized personal computing was now on its deathbed. Bankruptcy was knocking at the door. But then, in a twist no one saw coming, Apple was saved by its biggest enemy. The company they had battled in court. The company Steve Jobs publicly hated. The company that had crushed them in the market. Microsoft. But why? Why would Bill Gates throw a lifeline to Apple? What did he stand to gain? The answer will shock you. To understand why Microsoft stepped in, we have to go back. Back to when Apple was on top of the world. In the 1980s, Apple had something no one else had: the Macintosh. A sleek, futuristic computer that brought the mouse and graphical interface to the mainstream. But there was one problem. It was expensive. Meanwhile, a new competitor was rising: Microsoft. Bill Gates wasn't selling computers, he was selling the software that powered them. And by the early 90s, Windows had taken over. Apple left in the dust. By 1997, Apple was a disaster. They had no clear direction. Their products were outdated. Their leadership was a mess. Steve Jobs had been kicked out a decade earlier and was now running his own company. Meanwhile, Apple was cycling through CEOs like a sinking ship, swapping captains. Their market share had fallen below 5%. They were weeks away from running out of cash. Investors were pulling out. The company was practically dead. And then Steve Jobs came back. In a last-ditch effort, Apple acquired Next for its software. But this wasn't about the software. This was about Steve Jobs. They needed him. They needed his vision. And Jobs had a plan. But he also had a problem. Apple had no money. Without an immediate cash infusion, all the vision in the world wouldn't save them. So Jobs did something no one expected. He picked up the phone and called Bill Gates. What happened next? It changed tech history. Jobs convinced Gates to invest $150 million in Apple. But that wasn't all. Microsoft also agreed to continue developing Microsoft Office for Mac, something Apple desperately needed. Then, the moment that stunned everyone. At Macworld 1997, Jobs announced the deal, and on a massive screen behind him, a live video of Bill Gates. The audience booed. Apple fans had spent years viewing Microsoft as the enemy, and now they were Apple's savior? It was unthinkable. But here's the real twist. Microsoft didn't do this to save Apple. They did it to save themselves. At the time, Microsoft was under intense scrutiny from the US government. They were being accused of running a monopoly and faced the real threat of being broken apart. If Apple collapsed, it would prove Microsoft had no competition. Keeping Apple alive helped Microsoft appear less dominant in the eyes of regulators. This wasn't a favor. This was strategy. With Microsoft's money and support, Apple bought itself time. Jobs slashed product lines, focused on design, and launched the iMac, the first step in Apple's comeback. Then came the iPod, the iPhone, the iPad, and suddenly, Apple wasn't just back, they were dominating. By 2010, Apple surpassed Microsoft in market value. And by 2018, Apple became the first trillion-dollar company in history, all from a deal no one saw coming. What's the lesson here? In business, your biggest competitor can sometimes be your greatest ally. Apple was on the edge of collapse, and Microsoft? They weren't just throwing a lifeline, they were protecting their own empire. And yet, that one decision reshaped the tech industry forever. So the next time you think an enemy is out to destroy you, remember this story. Sometimes the best deals are made between rivals. If you found this story fascinating, hit that like button, subscribe for more business motivation, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. See you in the next one.